Preemptive.
Preemptive. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeff. Now I've started speaking, you realise that my name and the spelling of my name may well have created false expectations, going back to the consistency of what Jeff said. So was my name, and also you may well have expected the News at 10 reader, which has happened to me on previous occasions when I have pitched up at certain events. I am not the latter. Welsh tenure is tenuous, and actually if you speak to my chair, Baroness Tennegrave-Thompson, she's very happy in outing me as a fake Welsh, in her own words. But the opportunity today, and thank you very much for the introduction, this looking at the delegate list here, it is not for me to come up on the train from London and talk about precisely how you guys on the front line in this country are able to deliver on the day in, day out what you are doing through the academic work and the data and the insight you provide, through the strategies you develop within the devolved administration with the arm's length agencies like Sport Wales, and also the key frontline organisations you run. What I'm actually here to do is ask for maybe some favours and some requests of support. Because actually I think the power is actually how we elevate the debate around what you are doing day in, day out in your work. And actually how do we look at the current political environment, which can be described at best as fluid, and to look at how we can really develop and support the case for greater debate around the role that physical activity can play in the transformative impact it can have on society as a whole. And I think that prize is up for grabs right now. And I think actually as we develop over the next 6, 12, 18 months, there's a real opportunity to develop that going forward and to think how we elevate our play. So the narrative today is going to be around urgency a little bit from me. Urgency of the call. And what can we do to really deliver that urgency of debate? And let's see where we can get to, because actually this is a great opportunity and a great cohort of organisations who can help support that call on a UK-wide scale to actually drive real change. Let me talk a little bit about UK Active for the uninitiated. We're a non-for-profit health organisation, 4,000 members across the UK, which has been historically driven within the fitness and leisure sector. That's how it was started in the early 90s. Standing here as the acting CEO in 2019, it's less a homogenous group now. We have a real broad breadth of organisations who have now come into our play, from national governing bodies of sport, to third sector organisations, through to local authorities, through to business organisations, major corporates, regen companies. Really all will have a vested interest in the health and well-being of their community, of their workforce, of their environment. And so what we're able to do is try and support them in achieving their ambitions for an active, healthy society. In the context of Wales, we have a very good, strong footprint here with operators. Some will be in the room today. Some of our public and private operators who you'll know have a strong footprint within Wales, and that's great that we can actually engage and add value to their work day in, day out in supporting an active, healthy society. In terms of the spine of the organisation, it has evolved over the last sort of 10, 15 years. In essence, we have a research institute in-house which provides research, academic research, insights, measurement, evaluation for our members and partners on the evidence base for physical activity in society. We have a major campaigns piece. I'll talk about National Fitness Day at the end of the presentation I'm providing, but also major projects working with major public and private organisations, the activation of campaigns like This Girl Can, Change for Life 1U, but also some of our own campaigns with corporates like AXA, PPP, Sainsbury's, all who have an interest and play in this agenda. And we do a lot of work with public policy and campaigns, both at the central, devolved and local level to add value to the conversation around where physical activity should be going. We know the challenges. We know the challenges of inactivity in society. We know the challenges of both the economic, both the social and physical and mental implications of inactivity from cradle to grave, which we face in this country right now. It is a generational challenge which we need to address, and that one of the challenges politically is it doesn't fit nicely into 5-year cycles. And so what we need to be doing as an organisation is working with organisations in this room to really drive through where the solutions are. But we know that if we can talk more about the economic costs associated and the social costs, we will get there. I'm contractually obliged to show a photo of my chair and the great Paralympian Baroness Tennegrave-Thompson within every presentation that I do. But also, on a serious note, she started to talk, and what Jeff alluded to is about this is more than just about participation numbers. This is about physical activity being a golden thread that runs through the society in which we operate. And it has a much bigger impact than just on the physical health of individuals. There are many organisations in this room who can probably relate to a number of those additional areas which are listed below. And it is the opportunity for us as a sector to really showcase and trumpet and discuss how we best show the value, both through evidence, but also through the great case studies that you guys will have around what value you're providing within Wales and within the local community you're operating in, to show back to decision makers, influencers, that this is the game. This is what can really change the game in terms of the health and well-being of individuals, of families, of communities, of countries. And I think that is where the tanny will come from on this debate. And you even have to look at the recent evidence from the Commission work with Sport Wales, looking at just under £300 million saved from physical activity into NHS costs to show the value. How we maintain that mantra is everything going forward. Now, I spend a lot of time in Westminster, which is a blessing and a curse. And it is a very fluid situation right now. It would be remiss, even though we recognise and respect fully the devolved administration and the role and responsibility that the devolved administration and its arm's length agencies has in Wales. There is a seismic change in the landscape politically going on within the United Kingdom. The one thing I would say about the two contestants who are running for the leadership of the Conservative Party, having spent some time with them individually, is that there is an instinct for this agenda. I spent a year working with Jeremy Hunt in DCMS in the build-up to and including the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 2012. He is someone who understands instinctively the preventative agenda and its value. In addition, having spent time with Boris Johnson as well when he was Mayor of London, again, he has an instinct for this. He has an instinct for this agenda. The challenge we have is how we change that instinct into policy, into investment, into resource, and into recognition for our sector. It is great to have a start, and we have a foot in the door with these two individuals. But I think the real opportunity here is bigger than that. I think the real opportunity is how we look at the decision-making which impacts on everything that we do collectively as a sector, and get cultural change in terms of how decisions are made around the impact of our work. Too much of what's happened since Sporting Future in 2015 has not been as radical as the thought process that went into the document. It was a transformative document. In many ways, it looked at the value of sport and physical activity in society. And yet, the implementation of it has not kept pace with the radical thought that it was providing. Too much still remains in silos. I have to go from department to department to department to department to get the interventions I require for my members and partners to deliver successfully around physical activity and the health and well-being of the nation. It remains behind the curve. And so what we need to see, beyond just initiatives, is a cultural change across the departments, which I think we can really explore. And I think we have a responsibility to that as well. I think the real opportunity is for us to learn from other sectors and actually look at other campaigns and look at the urgency that we can provide to this debate and this campaign. And I think about what's happened recently around the environmental climate change agenda. There are lessons that our sector can learn from that in terms of how you create an urgency, how you almost create shame in the decision makers about what they have done in terms of neglect around physical activity and the fabric that brings communities together. And I think there's a real opportunity there. But also to think about the wider fluidity around where we're going to go with a potential general election. Again, instinctive-wise. The last time I was in Wales, I was climbing Snowdon with Tom Watson, who has gone on a transformative journey in his own personal life, losing over 8 stone. And he has transformative impact on his value around sport and physical activity. That is an opportunity for us to help influence and develop a potential Labour government in the next 2 or 3 years around their thinking around this, and how that can influence the devolved administration here as well. And so there's a real opportunity here, but I think it's up to us to think about how we coordinate our campaigns, how we coordinate our messages, and how we work with organisations like ours to really hammer home the true value of what we're doing. Now, in the next few weeks, we will be quite disruptive as an organisation in terms of how we make the case to these people who are going to be running our United Kingdom over the next few years. And there's a few areas I really want to focus on. I think there's nothing more that we can do unless we can change the dial around children and young people in this society. We know the statistics. We know the impact of inactivity on the youngest in our society. Our own research we did as an organisation in 2015 identified fitness levels being lost for up to 80% of a cohort from the northwest of England over the summer holiday period. You combine that with holiday hunger, you combine that with disconnection, isolation, you combine that from antisocial behaviour manifesting itself in the worst examples in knife crime, and you have a situation which is intolerable. You also have a situation where in England 40% of sports facilities are closed for the summer holidays because they're behind school gates. The optics are not great. Let's open them up. Let's open up these facilities. If there's a will and the courage and the opportunity to work with organisations across the whole United Kingdom and involving organisations in this room, let's have the will and the courage to open up and demand, not request, but demand that these facilities open up, because they are the assets which the community own. Whether it be in local authority control or in academy trust control, and especially holding the private and independent schools to account for their charitable status. Let's open up these facilities. They're in the heart of every community that you guys are working in. Let's open them up and let's utilise them over a period where, especially from families from low-income backgrounds, the pressure of that 6-week period is high. And so let's support not only the physical and mental well-being of the kids, but also support some of the interconnectivity across those local communities. That is a call we'll be making, again, back to government in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We really welcome your support as organisations on the front line to support that campaign. In addition, there's a real opportunity to look at the working life. You know, the toxicity of the working environment is there to all to see. Sedentary behaviour has a long-term impact on the health and well-being of our nation. Allow organisations like yourselves to work with the corporate sector, from micro business to SME business to major corporates, to support the health and well-being of the nation. There was a very valid point made by the head of sport a few weeks back at a conference talking about, you know, the need for hard facts and return on investment. 100% agree. 100% agree there is a need for that investment case to make the case. He also has some amazing evidence in his own intro around this agenda. Let's see that delivered. Let's see the Treasury provide employees across the country the opportunity to see the extension of the cycle to work scheme to include home equipment and gym membership. The numbers are there. The economic facts have been delivered to the government to bring that through. Let's see that incentivisation, which can see organisations across leisure, sport and physical activity working with major corporates. Let's see how we can think creatively about facilities. One of the reasons why cycling or running into work is restricted for certain organisations, certain people, is because of the lack of facilities. Let's think creatively about how we can work with the existing estate to support that. You know, local gyms everywhere across local communities could be opened up with memberships, which are facility only. Let's think creatively of what we can do. And let's look at how we reimagine ageing. You know, this is the big challenge, you know, and it's been addressed in certain margins of the debate recently with the Conservative Party. Let's think about how communities that you're working in, we maintain health, well-being, independence of older people as they get into older life. How do we support their well-being in a way which is dignified and gives the respect that they require? There's a great opportunity for our sector to really address the cliff edge moment where inactivity drops very radically after 55. How do we think about the programs, the cultural change within our collective sector to show to government that we should be front of every major investment around social care, looking at the preventive agenda in its entirety. There's a great opportunity to think about how we reflect our own workforces, how our own workforces, especially in their, can engage much better people in their 50s and 60s by actually having people in their 50s and 60s working in our own in our sector as well. Actually have a workforce that resonates with the audience we're trying to engage. This is a really good opportunity, and one which could be at the heart of the big challenges that both social care and the NHS across the whole country reflect on. And the final area I wanted to talk about, which I know that Carl's going to be speaking around later, is infrastructure. Unless the infrastructure is inclusive, unless it really works for all communities, we need to be thinking about how we improve and upgrade and make sure that our facilities reflect the communities that we're working in. We're working with Sport England in London right now, looking at how we can inject private sector investment to radically change the quality of the communities. That is an opportunity for both Sport Wales and the Welsh Government to engage on, and to think about how private sector investment can transform existing facilities into state-of-the-art wellness hubs which integrate our facilities from sport, wider leisure, GPs, community facilities, all in one hub. And there's a great example from Llanelli, which will be coming up later on in the session. And so the first ask really is, how can we at UK Active work with this audience and work with the individual organisations to be the front line of the charge? You know, it was on Newsnight last night where there was discussion of having a revolution in participation. Let us be on the front line. Let us be on the front line of that revolution. Let us be on the front line of the preventive agenda, because it's not going to go away, and we have a great opportunity to coordinate and to maximise our messaging. So that was the first ask. The second ask is a bit more fun. So in the 28th, in the 23rd, in the 22nd of September, we will be kicking off the European Week of Sport in Cardiff. And there is a great opportunity. In the major situation, the UK Active still gets a grant funding from the European Commission to be the UK's host for the European Week of Sport. It is one of the foibles, and actually the delays in exiting Brexit has been a financial advantage to my organisation, so long may that continue. The reality is the last week in September is the European Week of Sport. We will be kicking off the celebrations around the European sport over that preceding weekend, with National Fitness Day being the 25th of September. We will be opening up the whole of the Cardiff Bay area outside the government building to a whole host of activities. If your organisations want to be involved in that day, feel free to come up and have a chat with me at the end. It would be great to see the very best of this very proud nation in terms of sport and physical activity represented over that weekend. And then with National Fitness Day on the Wednesday, the 25th, let's make that the biggest day. Let's actually make a statement back about the value of physical activity to society, what fitness and health means to every individual, and let's get the whole of the UK moving on that day. And if this nation, this great nation, can actually be the most active, let's see how much competition we can get between the other countries in the union as well. Thank you very much for listening. I'm not sure we have any questions immediately, Jeff, but I'm more than happy to catch people across the day. I hope that was useful. I hope that was informative and added some of the questions that you may well have. I'll be around for the rest of the morning to answer and pick up any questions that you may have. But thank you very much.